Yo, what's up? What's up? Today we're gonna be watching Tucker Carlson again. This is part two. I guess they caught Netanyahu red-handed and buried it. I'm pretty sure he's wanted all over the world as with war crimes that he's done. I mean, many countries want him. What else did he do? I'm pretty sure he's done everything in the damn book, but it's just the U.S. is protecting him and people in Israel are protecting him. So we're gonna figure out to see what the hell they catch them doing because probably something we already knew already. Let's see.
That Prime Minister Netanyahu's security detail was caught twice by Secret Service attaching some kind of device to the president's Secret Service emergency response vehicle. I don't know if that's true. Have you heard that?
I've read it in the media. I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
I think the president and the vice president and several members of the cabinet going out to dinner in D.C. and the Code Pink protesters having a heads up about that to rent the table. And that's hard to do. They had to figure out where they'd rent the table. They had to kind of get the restaurant on board to a certain extent. To me, that's kind of a almost like counting coup. It's a soft flex. It's a I can touch you whenever I want. It was Code Pink. They weren't going to do anything. We know they're just going to be kind of crazy and annoying. However, what does that mean? That means you've got real problems with your security detail. And then, a few weeks later, you have an armed police officer who's off duty, who's not part of the president's detail, come right up and shake the president's hand. And the guy's probably patriotic American, whatever. He probably just wanted to shake the president's hand legitimately. But that got a lot of publicity. And what does that mean? And the president, again, President Trump is very smart. I think President Trump has a gift for interpreting large sets of data.
Yes.
And making very, very key strategic decisions. And so when the president sees that he's got issues with his own security detail, when he sees what happened in Butler with the other assassination attempts, when he sees what happened with Charlie, I think it's reasonable to believe that somewhere in his head he thinks that, maybe I don't have a choice. Maybe they could harm me or they could harm my family. And if they can't keep me safe, I believe the president deeply cares. I believe he's very courageous. I think if it was just a matter of he worried about his own physical safety, I don't think he cares. We saw that in Butler. But he does love his family, and he's got a big family. And so somewhere in his head, if they can't keep me safe, what about my family? So, look, maybe the president was just simply deceived by the echo chamber we described, and that's how we got to this place. But it's also, there's a potential that there's an element of coercion, intimidation, whatever words you want to use there, that is also influencing his decision-making.
If you were assessing a similar situation in another country, a country not your own, and you as an expert on these questions, which obviously you are, I gave you the same data set you've just presented to me. And I said, would you say that's just crazy even to bring that up as a possibility?
Not at all. I mean, when you map out those data points, I would just say this moves from being a possibility to potentially, depending on how you look at it and interpret it, this could be a likelihood. It would be something that I'm sure that we would debate rigorously, but nobody would dismiss it altogether. With all this data, it's not nothing. It's something that has to be looked into.
Is it being looked into?
Again, I don't think it is. I think that with Butler, your investigative journalist found more about crooks than the entire government. And
the response I received from the FBI was so hostile that it confused me, and it still does confuse me. A lot. It confuses me a lot since I didn't approach the question with anything like that in mind. I mean, we put this documentary out. We got information, the information you described. We got a lot of his online activity, which we've been told didn't exist. And this was not an attack on the FBI. This was, of course, during the last administration with a different director. So this was hardly a partisan hit job. This is the president of the United States who I campaigned for and voted for and have liked for many years. So, it's not an attack. Mm-hmm. And the response that I got was hysterical.
Yep.
That's not an overstatement.
Yep.
And it confuses me.
Yeah.
Have you had experiences like that?
There was a level of, just hostility coming from really the FBI. And some of it, I think, is just rivalry. Why are you looking over my shoulder? I got this. I'm very familiar with that. I mean, we're the same way in the military, so I got it.
I'm sure that's right.
I totally get that.
They were treating like you were in the Air Force kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what do you know? We're the FBI. Gotcha. But, we had a role to play, and the way that we were aggressively blocked from that, I found the hostility to be above and beyond what you would think that you'd find with just typical, rivalry, bureaucratic rivalry, turf wars, those types of things. Some of that was at play, but the level of like, you cannot look at this. And then for them to escalate it, to attempt to get us kicked out of the case, that to me was very surprising. Same thing with Butler. When we first started asking questions about Butler, I thought, because especially that happened under the Biden administration, that, hey, we would come in and we would get the truth because, the previous administration really screwed this thing up. And there just wasn't curiosity there. There wasn't curiosity, and there wasn't a tolerance whatsoever for us going after just the key questions of like, hey, did the informant that you had that was interacting with this guy, Mershant, was he in communication with anybody in Butler? I mean, basic questions to ask. Again, this is nothing that's going to blow any investigator's socks off. Just those basic questions. Like, no, the two aren't related. Like, you can't talk about it. You can't ask any of those questions. Even when we found data that needed to be looked in. Yeah, I mean, they would say at the time, like, well, the Mershant case is ongoing, et cetera. Like, we can't interfere if that case is over. So, I mean, at this point,
I don't understand. I think this is like a new rule.
Yeah.
Which is to say a fake rule that you're not allowed to gather information about anything that might potentially intersect with an ongoing case that's not directly related. Like who made that up?
I think that's just made up. I don't, because then how do you ever investigate anything?
What law school did you go to? Right. And I asked this question and it was like, yeah, cases have been overturned on this basis. And it's like, well, cases have been overturned on many bases, but
right.
How is that? Is this like the new standard? Because you would not be able to investigate anything.
Right, exactly. And we want to get to the truth. And
so what is that for those of us following along at home who don't have a high level of familiarity with the process? What could that possibly be? The current president was the subject of a near successful assassination attempt like recently.
Yeah.
And we're just not going to look into, very obviously, or divulge information that everyone knows they have. For example, the surveillance tape from the shooting range at which Thomas Crooks trained, because it would answer the question, was he training with somebody? And if so, who? They have that footage and they won't release it. What could possibly be the explanation for that?
I know what the result is. The result is people come to their own conclusions, and this is where like crazy conspiracy theories come from. And then those conspiracy theories usually are easy to debunk or make the people saying them sound crazy. So then the actual question never gets answered.
Right? I'm sorry. Can you say that for people who haven't lived in Washington? Okay, I try to explain this to people all the time because this has been ongoing since at least the Kennedy assassination. But this is a very serious and reoccurring thing. It's a tactic. And you just explained it better than anyone I've ever heard. Can you just do that again if you can recall it from memory?
Yeah, I mean, so basically you give no information whatsoever on something that's obvious that there should be information. Like you outlined, like there's potentially footage of Crooks at the shooting range. Again, Police 101, go get the tapes. Let's figure it out. If you don't want to address that question, then you go silent on it and you say, you can't ask that question, which then creates people who come out of kind of nowhere and they start drawing their own conclusions.
Right.
Knowing the way the internet works, I mean, half of them, if not more, are probably going to be so far off in left field and made by legitimate kooks or bots that then you can just be like, oh, these people asking these questions about that tape at the video range.
It's space aliens.
All crazy conspiracy theorists. They say it's a UAP or whatever. And so then you've just, diverted all attention away from the thing that you're trying to conceal, and now everyone's focused on the crazies.
Man.
And then the second someone asks a legitimate question, they're crazy.
I hope everyone watching will just clip that tape and keep it on your phone and replay it every day, because that is one of the primary ways that the intel agencies and federal law enforcement influence public opinion, influence elections. That's the way they influence the perception of what's going on. But more than anything, it's the way that they hide their own behavior from the public.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the administration, I think it was it was January 23rd, was like right after the inauguration, the president issued an executive order calling for the total declassification, release of all documents relevant to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in November of 1963, all of them, and also documents relevant to the assassination investigation into Martin Luther King and Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General. I don't think all the Kennedy documents have been released, have they?
They were supposed to be. I mean, that was the president's order. That's what was in the executive order.
It's the law.
It's the president. The president said it, and it's in the executive order.
Maybe you can't go there because
So, yeah.
yeah. So I just want to say again, and not from you, I have been told conclusively that that has not happened. So without divulging anything that's classified, like anything from 1963 should be classified, the whole thing is insane and an insult to citizens. I'm a middle-aged man. I wasn't even born then. It was 6 years before I was born, and they're telling me I can't see it? Okay. It's infuriating, and it's the end of democracy. But what could possibly be the justification for keeping classified a document that must, under law, be released,
Yeah.
and that was produced generations ago?
Yeah. I think more of this goes to the deep state, the system, the machine, whatever you want to call it. They're not hiding something in the Kennedy files, in my opinion, because it's not like the assassins wrote down on this day we're going to kill JFK and they put it in a file at CIA or FBI.
Right.
Like that didn't happen. So I don't really think there's anything that's in particularly, would be earth shattering inside the files themselves. The system doesn't want to get us used to things being rapidly declassified. They don't want a president to be able to come in and say, here's an executive order, and I said declassify it because the people demand it, and it happens like that as fast as it could happen. They don't want that to happen. They want to condition us that, like, okay, the president that the American people elected, he may have, come in and lawfully given us an order, but there's a process here. There's an interagency process. Everyone gets to check to make sure there's nothing still classified or still ongoing, even if it was from, 1963 or even further back. Because again, they don't want us conditioned to, we can just have access to this information. And I think there's probably times where that would be appropriate, like something declassifying something that happened last week, for instance.
Sure.
Yeah, there's going to be equities there, and I think the American people would understand that.
I agree.
But a lot of this, I think, is power. And so the bureaucracy, when the president says declassify this, regardless of what it is, from decades ago, they can't just let them have it. They all want to have their cuts on it. They want to be able to control it. And this is the way, like, the bureaucracy and the career bureaucrats roll. And they just tell the new political appointees, like, hey, we just, we really can't do that. But we'll get us to a place that mostly will get you what you want eventually. And then it all just gets killed off in process. And there's literally no transparency at the end of the day, or limited transparency. But that's what I think the game is here. They don't want to condition us that you can elect a president and he can automatically change the bureaucracy.
I mean, this fact, the fact that the government doesn't have to tell you what it's doing, even though you pay for it, just invalidates the whole concept of consent to the governed. Like, how can you give consent to something you know nothing about?
Yeah.
Right. But more than that, it creates a moral poison at the center of the society. Lying is a sin. It's the core sin. And lies beget lies, and they, like cancer, destroy the body in which they live.
Yeah.
And if you care about the body, this country, if you're from here and you hope to live here and have grandchildren here, you have to fix that. And I really think that telling the truth, radically telling the truth, is the only thing that gets you there. And the pain that entails, and it does entail pain, there's no doubt about it, and humiliation, is much smaller a price to pay than the price that we will pay inevitably and maybe soon if we don't do it. I don't think this is sustainable, this level of lying in any society.
Well, there's been a lot of noise in the news lately, but none of it.
Well, guys, so that was Joe Kent. So he was the chief on the counterterrorism group within Iran. He's currently not working with them anymore because he felt as if Iran was not really a threat right now, and the whole invasion of what we're doing within Iran was uncalled for. And I believe it too. I mean, at the end of the day, Trump said that people that he was getting he was getting some intelligence that they were gonna hit us first, but there was really no intelligence like that. It was just meant for Israel to do it. And at the same time, this guy was also supposed to be investigating Charlie Kirk's death, which the FBI had stopped them from doing. And now, actually, he's under investigation by the FBI for what he's been talking about on the Tucker Carlson show. And he didn't even talk about much, which is weird, which ends up showing that they'll kill you for actually speaking the truth, man. They'll take you out of the public's eye as quick as you're just in it. And you have no right to even say anything that's regarding the truth. They're hiding all the footage that's Tel Aviv getting bombed by Iran right now. They're feeding us information saying that we're winning this war when they haven't even done nothing but bomb Iran and not even send any troops over there. There's people dying that are U.S. citizens that are in different bases all over the world. Even in Europe, they end up getting hit, the bases. And it's just crazy. Like you said, that's just have the government not even put anything and stay silent about it and let people draw their own conclusions. And like I've seen it on the damn internet. I've seen so many people have all these radical conspiracy theories that eventually you're like, man, this is so off that this cannot be true, which is taking your attention off of the what could actually be the truth. And it ends up taking away from what the whole point that they're freaking even hiding it. They're not even letting go of these documents, just like the Jeffrey Epstein files or the JFK files. Why are you hiding this information that should be accessible for U.S. citizens? This is a democracy. This is supposed to be open knowledge to everybody. And it's because there were some bad things that they done and they know that they did it. And like you said, there's maybe humiliation that happens in the process. But you need some truth and transparency within the whole country so people can have some faith in their government. And eventually, like he says, it'll rot down to the core with all these lies. And eventually it's going to come out. The truth always comes out. It comes to the light. But yeah, so this is the episode for today. Pray for Joe Kent, man. Pray for that guy because I know they're going to be on his ass now. Pray for him. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one.